And we are also known often as the Karen Caucus.
Good morning. And I think you can hear me. I yell really loud. So you all have received a ballot. All 5 presentations are on this ballot. We will collect the ballots only after all 5 have finished. So if you leave early, you're out of luck. We're going to close the doors in a minute, and late entrants will be admitted, but they won't have a chance to vote. Now, the way this works, we are awarding, thanks to Matt Morgan's generosity, 2 grants this year. Each grant is $20,000. You can vote for up to 2 selections. Please put your number 1 choice by putting the number 1 in the box next to the person's photograph and description, and we have 4 of our 5 here in front of you to remind you who they are. Put your second choice, number 2, in the appropriate box. Do not put a number 3. Do not put a number 4 or a number 5. If you cannot make up your mind and have only one number 1, that's okay too. Do not put 2 number 1s. You must select a number 1 and a number 2 if you so desire to put a number 2. Is that clear?
Okay, thank you.
The voting, when you leave, we will collect your ballot. You can fold it if you want. Don't spindle or mutilate. And we will hand count the votes probably right after this session. The 2 award winners will be announced tonight at the celebration. Following the celebration dinner, if you do not have a meal ticket or you do not wish to attend the dinner itself, you are welcome. Please come after the dinner. Catherine Jordan will have on her hat, not this one, another one for the auction, and everyone is welcome after the dinner, whether or not you came to the dinner, and we will start off our celebration by celebrating our 5 finalists and our 2 winners.
Thank you, Karen. Karen is also the chair of the reunion committee, so all of these wonderful things that we've been experiencing are in part because of Karen, but also her committee and the alumni board. This project of the Winning Victories grants is a project of the alumni board. And Matt Morgan is very sad that he can't be with us to meet the finalists, but he is so pleased that there has been such a response to this call for proposals. These are not awards, these are grants. And last year was the first year of the Winning Victories grants, and it was not restricted to which alums apply, so there were 80 applications, and we had 5 teams of scorers to end up with the finalists. This year, Matt says, I really want to do this for the younger alums, the alums who, since the year 2000. And we had 20 proposals and 2 teams of scorers. And these are 5, well, there is a 5th one, you'll see, are the finalists. And so, you have the information. I'm not going to read their information because I don't want to read into their time. And Karen Foride has some cards that say 2 minutes, 1 minute, and then there's a hook. No, and so she will be alerting them when their time is almost up. And the first presenter is Noah. He's the 3rd one down, and Josh.
Okay, finish your introductions and then we will close the doors.
Right, is Josh, and he is in Israel now, but he has prepared a 10-minute. Each of them is going to speak for 10 minutes. then we'll do our voting and move on to the next session. But Josh has presented a video, and April, who's brand new to the Alumni Board in about an hour, is going to introduce you to Josh, or turn it on.
Okay, David, can just hold, the door is open, but no more ballots. Thank you.
All right, meet Josh.
And lights off.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joshua Daniel Hirschfield. I graduated Antioch in 2008. The title of my project is Rise, the musical. It is a fully scripted and composed stage musical that tells a story of love and resistance in the midst of a Jewish uprising in one of the Nazi ghettos during the Holocaust. I just want to start by thanking you for letting me send in a video submission. I would have really liked to be there in person, but I'm currently out of the country doing research for this project, and I couldn't interrupt it right now to come home, so thanks for accepting this. In regards to the project, the story is one of a group of young people in one of the Nazi ghettos who, during the Holocaust, find a way to form an underground network to smuggle food, clothing, messages, and weapons to stage a rebellion against the Nazi regime. It is a fictional account of real events. It is firmly rooted in fact and meticulously researched. I think that the popular narrative of the Holocaust is inadequate and profoundly lacking in any real awareness about the realities of Jewish resistance to the Nazi genocide. We know very well stories like Anne Frank and Schindler's List, which are important stories, but I would argue they are not empowering. And they do not tell about the people, mostly teenagers, who, while being starved to death, enslaved, worked to death, dying of disease, watching their families murdered around them, scheduled for mass execution, they found the courage and the will to fight back. In numerous ghettos and camps, there were acts of resistance. These stories need to be told. To tell these stories, and this story in particular, at a time in which people are being murdered in their places of worship and armed Nazis are marching down our streets, that is the urgency of this project. It's a popular phrase, yes, that history repeats itself. There's a less known phrase attributed to Mark Twain that says that history doesn't repeat, it rhymes. In our modern world, there are rhymes to what the world saw in the 1930s. In the midst of this, the survivor generation that witnessed the Holocaust firsthand is passing. The people who themselves can tell us their stories about the rise of tyranny and how it leads to genocide on a mass scale, they will not be here to tell their own stories. It is our responsibility now to do that. And the Holocaust, I think, is kind of the epitome of the possible. You know, if we want to know how bad things can get, that's how bad they can get. If we want to know what happens when authoritarianism and hate-based ideologies run rampant, that is what can happen. Within that context is the world of resistance, that even in tyranny that severe, totalitarianism that encompassing, horror that unspeakable, there was resistance, an active struggle for life, for dignity, for hope. People knew they were going to die, and some of them chose to die fighting, and some of those people survived. And that is what this story is about. Story, I think, is one of the most powerful weapons we have in the fight against the kind of hate that is currently sweeping our societies. The power of story to communicate facts, to communicate experience, to build empathy within people is profound, and our world is sorely in need of that power right now. We need new and compelling ways of engaging people, particularly younger generations, in the messages of the Holocaust. Most importantly, the need to fight back against tyranny, divisiveness, and injustice in our own societies. I'm using music to tell this story, not just because I'm a musician, but because music was a part of resistance during the Holocaust. It was an act of spiritual resistance. Songs were motivators of survival and rebellion. I'm using contemporary rock pop song structure, incorporating the Eastern European Jewish Gypsy scale with the electric guitar. So it will be a rock musical with echoes of traditional Eastern European music. I'm writing the script and the music now, the working draft of which will be done this summer. So the grant is not to support the writing of the project. The grant will go to support the next phase of development. Specifically, a series of staged reading performances. These are formal readings with actors and singers for audiences, but without being a fully produced show. It's a part of the process of finalizing a theatrical work. It gets audience response, it builds interest in further production. I've been offered stage reading opportunities in LA, New York, London, as well as the Krakow Jewish Theater in Krakow, Poland. And I would really like to include Antioch in this process. I really want to have a stage reading here at Antioch with students and members of the community so that Antioch continues to be a part of the development of this project. In addition to the stage readings, I will have a filmmaker taking footage and editing it to make a promotional video. And I have a friend and former Antiochian who's committed to making a website for the project and running the social media. Additionally, the grant will support the mastering of the soundtrack that I'm currently writing. So by the end of the process, with the help of the Winning Victories grant, we will have a polished script, a mastered recording, a promotional video, a website, and the experience and input of several audiences, all of which adds up to a show that is poised and ready for production, which is my goal for this grant. As for how my Antioch experience influenced this, the genesis for this project actually happened while I was at Antioch. I was on co-op in Eastern Europe and the Balkans in 2006, and I was deeply moved by my experience there, and I came back and wrote what ended up being my senior project, which was a series of songs loosely based about resistance to genocide. And I performed them with James Johnston and the Yellow Springs Orchestra. I didn't do anything with that for years, but after 2016, and particularly after Charlottesville, I made the choice to refocus my creative and professional efforts to create something that answers to our current global state of affairs. And in so doing, I revisited the original inspiration that led to my Antioch Senior Project, and this is essentially what has come out of that. Additionally, Antioch, Antiochians, we are special people, yeah? We don't shy away from challenges. We can't. If we did, we would never graduate. So Antioch nurtured the aspects of my personality that will lead to the completion of this project, namely an unshakable passion, unwavering determination to influence the world in a positive way, and a willingness to face challenges head on, which are three things that I think I share with every Antiochian. Ensconced as I've been for the last year in something as difficult as Holocaust research, there have been a lot of challenges. But, I have spoken to several Holocaust survivors, and not one of them is pessimistic or cynical, not one. That being said, each one of them has said that things are really bad right now. So, if a Holocaust survivor is telling us that, we need to listen. And that, I think, is the crux of the issue, that we are in this fulcrum moment. And it does no good to shy away from the challenges that we face. We need to be brave and face them, which is what those who came before us have done, and which is what, if nothing else, Antioch teaches us. It is my goal and intention for this project that it serves to inspire more people to stand up to tyranny and hate, and to fight for human dignity in the midst of this very challenging time. That is my proposal. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for considering this for the Winning Victories grant. And thank you very much.
So if we can
right on the next presenters. Thank you. Well, that was pretty amazing. I can understand why he's not here with us. But I had only one comment about what he said. He referred to a friend as a former Antiochian. Once an Antiochian, you're always an Antiochian. Okay. And you do have the information in your ballot about the candidates. Our next candidate is Antioch Bennett from New Mexico, and she's going to present her proposal.
Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. It's such a trip to be in this room. It's so nice to see all your faces. My name is Antioch Bennett. I'm the founder and executive director of Three Sisters Kitchen, which is a nonprofit community food space in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I feel really grateful to Antioch for helping me to find my way to Albuquerque. I moved there 16 years ago for my final co-op. I worked at a nonprofit arts and education organization for 8 years. My co-op was extended for quite a while, and then decided to go back to school to pursue a master's in public health at the University of New Mexico. And that's really when I dove into work that was more focused on food justice, food access, and community health. The idea for Three Sisters Kitchen came out of a series of community conversations led by small farmers in Albuquerque. The average farmer in Bernalillo County, where Albuquerque is situated, is surviving off of $10,000 a year. They're not making much money from farming. They're doing the best they can to grow beautiful food for the community. And they were, this group of farmers were selling their produce at the downtown Albuquerque farmers market, and they approached the market manager asking for an incubator kitchen. They wanted a commercial kitchen space where they could take the food they were growing, experiment and explore with food business development, and try to develop products that they could sell year-round that would address food waste in their fields, but also help them make more than $10,000 a year. So at that point, I was working with a small farmer cooperative in the South Valley of Albuquerque, New Mexico, doing really similar work, helping small farmers, we're talking farmers growing on 10 acres or less, figure out how to use sustainable practices, grow beautiful food, but also make sure that food could get to community members who may not otherwise be able to afford fresh, healthy, local, organic food. It was wonderful work. We had a lot of fun together. I was teaching a lot of community cooking classes and finding creative ways to make sure farmers could get paid well and make that food affordable and accessible for the larger community. Those conversations happening with farmers at the downtown farmers market and the farmers I was working with sort of helped push me in the direction to found Three Sisters Kitchen. So I came on board. I was sort of recruited to build this community food space that could meet the demands of small growers looking for food business incubation opportunities. And really, one, because we were really committed to a community engaged planning process where we could hear what people actually wanted. But also because we didn't have much funding for the first 2 years. We got to really sit and listen. And so we engaged thousands of community members. We had over 2,000 people who were actively engaged in a planning process, really responding to 4 core questions. What is a community food space? Like, what does that even mean? Could mean so many things. And what does this community food space need to be relevant to your life, to your family, to your work, and to your community? And so we had these incredible community conversations, action planning sessions that resulted in our mission, resulted in the selection of our name. So for those of you who are gardeners, the concept of Three Sisters is probably really familiar. I'm an only child, it's not a reference to my family. The Three Sisters are corn, beans, and squash. When you plant them together, they grow stronger. So it one, served as a really key reminder of where we are, of whose land we're on, of the indigenous agricultural and food traditions and knowledge of New Mexico, but also as a beautiful metaphor for community work, right? The idea that everyone has something to offer, that everyone has something they need, and that we grow stronger together. So that name came out of these community conversations, and so did our mission, which is to use the power and love of local food to create economic opportunity, improve community health, and bring our diverse communities together around the table. So we built this beautiful space that's doing work at the intersections of community health, economic development, and community building. The space itself is right downtown in the heart of Albuquerque, across the street from the public transit hub, so it's truly accessible citywide. It's an old restaurant, so we were able to remodel it to accommodate a beautiful community classroom. It's like a TV cooking show setup that can fit 50 people for hands-on cooking classes. We run community cooking classes focused on using local food, health and nutrition, but also just make the space available for anyone who wants to teach a class. It's sort of our approach to the concept of food as medicine, right? We don't focus on shame and guilt around food, we focus on the joy that food brings, and we highlight the bounty of New Mexico. We also have a community classroom, or a community dining room that hosts community meals and events, again, they're bringing people together. And then we have a commercial test kitchen where we run a food business training program twice a year. It's a 15-week program for people without financial capital, but with great ideas for manufactured food business development. So we require them to incorporate a local ingredient, again, everything we can do to help small farmers make money. And we help them take that idea and push it towards viability. So a lot of food science going on, a lot of marketing, a lot of fun recipe testing. I get to taste a lot, which is great. And then the last component of our space and of our programs is a local food shop and cafe. The local food shop and cafe is designed, one, to highlight local food, locally raised, locally grown, locally produced food in New Mexico, two, to help us generate revenue, and three, to increase healthy food access. So the program that we proposed for your support today is what's called the Fruit and Vegetable Prescription Program at Three Sisters Kitchen. It takes an idea that the nonprofit hospital system in New Mexico has been playing with for the last several years, where it's been clinic-based, where clinicians, doctors, providers are asking patients who they see dealing with nutrition-related chronic disease a few screening questions around food security. Essentially, have you been stressed out about meeting your family's food needs in the last 12 months? Do you have challenges affording the healthy food that your family needs? If they answer in the affirmative, they become eligible for a prescription, which is essentially a voucher for fresh, locally grown food. That program has been housed in clinics, so they get the prescription from their doctor, and then they can cash those vouchers in, or those prescriptions in, at farmers markets around town. We love that idea, but what they shared with us at the hospital is they were having a hard time both with recruitment and retention. People were getting the vouchers, they weren't necessarily cashing them in. And so we decided to take that model and try it, test it as a community-based intervention. There are a lot of people who don't go to the doctor for a number of reasons, whether it's about having health insurance or not trusting large institutions or language barriers. We wanted to make this a truly accessible program. So instead of having to go to the doctor, we partnered with community-based organizations downtown, walkable from our location. So social workers, counselors, after-school programs, community organizing groups, where they're asking those screening questions of their populations, who they're working with. They're referring them to our program, and then we are able to give those vouchers or prescriptions for $15 a week of fresh, locally grown food. It allows us to buy food directly from a network of 23 small farmers who can rely on consistent buys from us every week. It helps us create really beautiful relationships with families who are excited about eating healthy local food but wouldn't otherwise be able to afford it. And then we complement that food distribution with community cooking classes. So maybe you're getting ingredients that you grew up eating, maybe you're getting ingredients that are new to you. Eggplant is always the biggest challenge. We have hands-on cooking classes to help people feel more confident taking control of their nutritional health. The idea is that because our space is so cool and so flexible and so intersectional, you're coming in, you get to shop like anyone else, you're just using the voucher. You get to connect with cooks, with registered dietitians, with nutritionists, with farmers. You get a deeper sense of where your food is coming from. You're building those strong connections in the local food system, but you're also getting excited about the possibilities that food brings. Again, we don't focus on shame and guilt around food, right? We focus on these ideas of possibility and opportunity and taking control of your nutritional health. We've been really excited to pilot the Fruit and Vegetable Prescription Program at Three Sisters Kitchen over the last 20 weeks. So actually this last week, we finished up our 20-week pilot season with 25 families. We were doing a lot of evaluation because the idea was start small and see what works. So we had pre-surveys and mid-surveys and post-surveys. We had a lot of community conversations and focus groups really to say, are you using this food? What are you doing with it? Are the classes useful? Is having, bilingual staff and registered dietitians on site useful? What else can we do to increase access to fresh, healthy local food, to help people feel more connected to farmers in the community, and to help those farmers make a living? The feedback has been really positive. It's been really validating. And the data we're seeing in terms of increased access to healthy food, increased healthy eating and cooking behaviors is really promising. The grant today will make possible an expansion of the Fruit and Vegetable Prescription Program at Three Sisters Kitchen, going from 25 to 50 families. and really digging into the evaluation around the health outcomes that we're hoping to make possible by increasing healthy food access. We're also really excited to be able to track the number of the money, the dollars and the pounds of local produce that we are purchasing, so we can really better understand the impact on the local food economy and what it means for small farmers to be engaged in this type of program. I'm really excited to be here. I know we can't take questions during the presentation, but I look forward to talking with you all later today, answering any questions. You can find us on social media. Our website is threesisterskitchen.org. 3 is spelled out, not the number. We're on Instagram and Facebook. It's Three Sisters Kitchen NM for New Mexico. And if you happen to be coming through New Mexico, or if you need a reason to come visit, we're right downtown. Please come find me. I'd love to give you a tour and show you what we have going on. Thank you all so much.
Well, it probably doesn't surprise any of us that you use the word community about 40 or 50 times. That's another Antiochian trait. Thank you so much. And our third presenter is Jesus Cantola Sanchez, and he graduated at the turn of the century in the year 2000. And you have his information here. And Jesus, please.
Hello everyone, I'm so happy to be here. I am a boy who grew up playing with dolls. I grew up in Evanston, Illinois, and I remember when I was about 3 or 4 years old, I had an aunt. I lived with my grandmother. She raised me for the first few years of my life. And I had an aunt who is, she's lovely, I love her. She was very traditional at that time and very, she would take my doll away from me because she told me that dolls were not for boys. And I remember she was pretty brusque about it. She would like lift the doll and hide her from me and make me cry. And of course my grandmother, being the hero that she's always been to me, would console me and find the doll and give the doll back to me and scold her, and then I was happy again. So Pepito tiene una muñeca. Pepito has a doll, is a tribute to all the boys who play with dolls, all the children who play with toys that may not be considered traditional to whatever their perceived or actual gender is. So before I go into the actual project, I want to introduce you to Pepito himself, the character. This is the work of Armando Minjares, who is an artist based in Kansas. And this is Pepito with Lola. Lola is his doll. And I have a number of examples. After this, I'd be happy to share the other examples. Sure, that's okay?
You must return it.
We can do it after. I can share it with folks once this is done. So this is Pepito. This is Lola, his doll. And before I go into the project itself, I just want to share a few pages of the story itself. It's a bilingual story. So the first page, the first section, I'll do the bilingual part just so you get a flavor of how we hope that families will share the story with their children. But then, for the sake of time, I'll just go ahead and read the English portion after the first page. So Pepito tiene una muñeca, Pepito has a doll. Pepito camina a la escuela con Lola todos los días. Ella es su muñeca y su amiga. Pepito walks to school with Lola every day. She is his doll and amiga. Shh. No vayas a hacer ruido, Lola. Pepito le dice a su muñeca al esconderla en su mochila. Don't make any noise, Lola, Pepito tells his doll while hiding her in his book bag. Pepito fears that his schoolmates will make fun of him if they see Lola. He wonders, if she doesn't come with me, how will she learn to read? At home, Pepito plays freely with Lola. There's no fear. It's time to eat, his abuela tells him. Every night, Pepito prays for the health of his abuela, that nothing happens to Lola, and that he may find un amigo at school to play with him. At At school, Pepito is shy and his schoolmates don't play with him. His only friend is Lola. Having her close makes him feel less lonely. At home, everything is different. His abuela is a lot of fun. She loves to dance. Bailan, bailan, bailan. Yes. Abuela, why do I have to hide Lola at school? Pepito asks. His abuela responds, you have to be careful. Someone can make fun of you or hurt you. If someone does something to you, tell me. I will always protect you. The next day, a new student arrives at school. He says, hello to Pepito. Hola, my name is Miguel. Pepito likes Miguel. Miguel likes Pepito. They become amigos. That night, Pepito gives thanks for his new amigo. He is so happy. Lola also has a new amigo. Amigo, amigo, amigo. Miguel teaches Pepito and Lola how to climb un árbol, a tree. Pepito's familia teaches Miguel how to dance. Bailan, bailan, bailan. Since becoming amigos, Pepito and Miguel walk to school together every day. One day, Pepito's mochila falls to the ground. The kids see Lola and make fun of him. Pepito has a doll. Pepito is a girl. Pepito's going to cry. Pepito doesn't understand what is happening and cries. Miguel defends him, but the kids keep making fun. No, no, no. Lola is my doll. She's my friend. I love her, and there's nothing wrong with that, Pepito tells the kids. The kids stop making fun of Pepito. They leave. Miguel is proud of his amigo. Pepito gives thanks to his friend amigo with a besito. Besito, besito, besito. Today, Pepito feels the same freedom at school that he does at home. He is fearless. There are niños, boys, that play with dolls. There are niñas, girls, that climb arboles, trees. There are niños and niñas that play with dolls and climb arboles. It's so wonderful to be a child and play freely. So that's the story. I did a quick version of it. It's a collaboration with Armando Minjares, who's based in Kansas. We've been working on this for about 2 years. We've done a few focus groups, and really the wonderful response of the children has really inspired us to kind of move it along and create even more interactive illustrations and more interactive language. The goal with the grant is to publish the book, make it available not only in the United States, but especially to the families that need it most, which from my perspective are families in Latin America. So I've been working to partner with PFLAG in Latin America. Currently, the partnerships have started in Mexico City. We have connections in Colombia and Peru, where we want to coordinate, once the book is published, not only to work with families here and LGBT organizations in the United States, but also to make sure to make the book available to the PFLAG families that can help us distribute it to, it'll likely be major cities at first, because that's where the access tends to be, places like Mexico City, places like Lima, places like Bogota, Buenos Aires, to make the book available to the families that need it most and really start a conversation and partner with the LGBT organizations to see what kind of resources can we create to have these conversations about the freedom to play, about expectations about that we have for children in terms of their play. I am really excited to be here, and I'm really excited to be a finalist, and I'm really happy that I'm able to share Pepito with you, and I look forward to continuing to share Pepito with as many people as possible. There's Armando Minjares, who's the illustrator, is also a boy who grew up playing with dolls, and we both have had such great conversations about the kind of support that we needed in order to be able to play freely. And I think it wasn't just the fact that it was a doll, but just the fact that my grandmother allowed me to be imaginative and to be able to just play and to be able to be creative and decide what I wanted to do with my own imagination, which led me to make choices like coming to Antioch, which led me to make choices to be a communicator, currently in the labor union, working for workers' rights, but having worked at Amnesty International, having worked at GLAAD, the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, and also to be a filmmaker. I want to share my first feature-length film is currently doing the film festival circuit, and I keep an eye out. It's called Bittersweet Waters. We've been to Mexico City where we had our premiere, going to Madrid in August. I just got news that we're going to be in Reeling in Chicago in September. We'll also actually be in Durham, North Carolina in August as well. And I'm actually going to head to Columbus in a little bit to talk about a potential screening at Ohio State. So all of this is connected. This grant in particular has to do with Pepito and his doll. Pepito tiene una muñeca. Pepito has a doll. But ultimately what I really want to happen is make the story available to those families that do not have these conversations but really need to. So thank you so much for your time.
I didn't hear you say Washington, D.C. Let's talk. And my son played with dolls as well as Legos and everything else, and so maybe your next one can be about girls who play with trucks and so forth. Anyway. So I wish we had more time to talk with all of them, but our fourth candidate is nearby. She lives in Dayton, and that's Layla Klein, who graduated in 2002. And so, Layla, come on up. It's Leela.
It happens. Wow, what an honor to be among these incredible finalists. I'm finding myself incredibly inspired. My name is Leela Klein, and my project is Creating the Cooperative Economy in the Rust Belt. So I want you to remember the last time that you went to Dayton, Ohio. And if you graduated a while ago, or if you haven't been back to visit recently, the reality that we're living in may be pretty different from what you're picturing. You may know that Dayton was actually kind of the Silicon Valley of the turn of the century. We invented the airplane, the cash register, the automatic starter. The Cheez-It was invented in Dayton, little known fact. And in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, we were an engine of manufacturing and proud of what we built. When I graduated high school in Dayton in the late 90s, you could graduate high school on Friday and walk into the GM plant on Monday for a job starting at $17, $18 an hour with a clear pathway to the middle class. But all of that has changed as companies like GM and National Cash Register left Dayton, chasing cheaper wages and weaker regulation south and overseas, and we lost tens of thousands of good jobs in Dayton. Dayton families are making, on average, over $10,000 less than they were before the recession of 2008, while the rest of the country has rebounded and even exceeded those numbers. And we have 34% of families living in poverty. With that loss has gone services and businesses that we relied on. And this has not been equally felt. Dayton has always been a hyper-segregated community, with the black part of town and the white part of town separated by a river. And the loss of jobs has exacerbated these already brutal fault lines. We are seeing the health of the community impacted. A black man has a 10-year lower life expectancy in Dayton than a white woman, and black babies are 3 times more likely to die. These conditions are what inspired me and a group of co-founders to create Co-op Dayton. We are an incubator of cooperative businesses that solve our community's problems and leverage our community's existing assets by creating cooperative businesses. Cooperative businesses are businesses that are owned by the people to whom they matter most. That's the workers, the customers, the neighbors. And we know in Dayton more than anyone else that we need to own the critical assets that we rely on. So Co-op Dayton incubates cooperative businesses by providing technical assistance. We do business planning, market research, we build governance mechanisms and financial models, and we do strategic organizing with the community. We focus on worker cooperatives because there we find the best potential to build back the wealth that we've lost in our community and to create family-sustaining jobs. We see ourselves as providing the scaffolding around projects that are developed and ideated by the community. I'm very proud that our leading initiative is called the Gem City Market. We've been working on this for about 4 years. The Gem City Market will be a worker and community-owned grocery store in Dayton's food desert. So Dayton, a few years ago, was named the second hungriest city in the nation for families with children. The way that shows up in people's lives is taking a 45-minute bus ride to the nearest full-service supermarket or shopping primarily at dollar stores. Now, there's a lot of things you can buy at a dollar store, no shade, but there is no produce department, right? You've been to a dollar store. I'm very proud that in our community, where in our trade area, the average median household income is $28,000, a third of our families are on food stamps. It's about 80% African American in the neighborhood that we're in. We have had over 2,000 community members become member owners of our cooperative, put their own money on the line to own this grocery store. We've also raised the money we need to construct the grocery store through a capital campaign with support from Tony Dosick, class of '67, shout out. We will be providing access to fresh, affordable, and healthy food for our community. We will accept SNAP and other forms of payment, including Produce Perks, a program that doubles your SNAP dollars if you're buying produce. We'll be calling Anzia for some advice on our teaching kitchen, which we are building to educate the community and allow community members to teach each other the skills that they have in the kitchen and make sure families can prepare healthy, affordable, and delicious meals. We'll be creating 27 jobs, and really this has been a true community effort. Everything from our architecture process to our construction process to our business plan has been run through committees. We have multiple active committees of rank and file community members who are making this project happen. My role is I'm the executive director of the nonprofit incubator, and I'm also the primary project manager for the grocery store. So I'm proud to be a leader in this movement, but what we have really is a leader-full space. We have people from every corner of the project stepping up to take a leadership role on various aspects of the project. And my favorite example of that is Maya Conastu, Antioch class of 2017. Maya and I met randomly at a peace walk in Dayton where I noticed her Antioch Farm t-shirt. Within a few hours, she had become a member of the Gem City Market, and within a few weeks from that had become one of our most active and engaged volunteer members. Maya then became our membership engagement coordinator and now oversees all of our membership systems. Like any Antiochian, she just jumped right in, made herself indispensable. So one thing that really prepared me for this work is my experience in the labor movement. So I was an organizer and then later an attorney in the labor movement. And what the labor movement taught me, and I'm sure Jesus can attest to this, we know how to build power, and we know that power comes when we work together. We also know the importance of the workplace as a central source of our identity and our dignity. And we in the labor movement hear people talking about the future of work and the changing nature of work, and we know that the only way for us to have power is to work together, and that the nature of work might be changing, but the nature of power is not. Voices from the Rust Belt need to be at the table when decisions are being made about the future of work in this country, and we're ready to bring those voices to the table. I have also been deeply influenced by my time at Antioch, which is not exclusively the time when I was in college. I am proud to be from an Antioch family. My mom, Julia Reichert, is class of 70. My dad, Jim Klein, 72. My stepdad is a former faculty. I met my partner, Bobby Holt, in 1999 at Antioch Orientation, and we had our commitment ceremony a couple years ago on the back steps of Maine. My cousin, Annie Reichert, is class of 2006. And the baby that you heard making some sweet noises is my baby cousin, who hopefully will come to Antioch someday, along with my 2 kids. So Antioch taught me how to work in community and how to work across difference. Bobby, my partner, always says that what Antioch really teaches you is how to recognize what you don't know and how to listen to other people's experiences, recognizing that people are the experts on their own lives and what they need. And that has really informed my work today. I also have to admit that being in this room makes me think of community meetings. I was a huge community meeting nerd. I actually looked forward to it every week. You know, being a committee nerd, I would have felt comfortable on this campus, even if I hadn't grown up playing hide and seek in the student union. So the Winning Victories grant will help Co-op Dayton to take the participatory model that we've used to build the Gem City Market and use it and leverage the community power we've already built to launch our next project. We already have a few projects in the works, including a commercial grade gourmet mushroom cooperative and a construction cooperative, but what we'd like to do is start a year-long accelerator where we take cohorts of community members through a business planning and popular education process together and develop ideas that they have on how to improve their community. One idea that we have actually is a doula and midwife cooperative to use trauma-informed care to actually help with the infant mortality crisis happening in our city. For long-term sustainability, we have an audacious vision inspired by the example of Madrigal in Spain. So briefly, because my time is running out, Madrigal is a city in the Basque region where they fought against Franco and had economic devastation. They rebuilt their economy using worker cooperatives. 5 workers started a cooperative in 1956 that is now a network of cooperatives with 70,000 employees, 13 billion in annual revenue, euros, and a thriving network. We want to build that network in the Rust Belt, right here in Dayton. We are going to pilot a people-centered economic model, and I'm asking for your vote to support us with this grant to get started on that work. Thank you so much.
This is likely the hardest thing I'm going to have to do this whole year, is select 2 out of these amazing 5 candidates. Thank you so much, Lila, and you clearly are an Antiochian. It's in your blood. And so we have one final presentation, and somebody else from New Mexico. There must be something in the drinking water or something, but that state is well represented. And this is Addison Nace, who's our final presenter today. Thank you. Come on up, Addison.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Addison. I graduated in 2017, so I think I'm the youngest finalist among this cohort. And my grant project starts with my last co-op, which was over summer and fall 2016. I went to work in Chiapas, Mexico with an organization called NATIC. And NATIC is, we partner with grassroots organizations in Mexico and Guatemala, and I was particularly working with our weaving cooperative called Mujeres Sembrando la Vida. And so that's kind of my history with coming to get to know this wonderful group of women. I wrote my senior project about issues with cultural appropriation and labor, and rights to designs in Mexico, in Chiapas particularly, and my thesis was published last January by the Textile Society of America. And then I will be pursuing a PhD to hopefully continue this work. I've been serving on the board of NATIC for 2 years, so that's kind of my history with the organization. So Mujeres Sembrando la Vida was founded in 2001 by a family. A mother basically started a microloan organization for women and managed to send her 2 daughters to university. So now the cooperative is run by her 2 daughters, and she gets to focus, Magdalena is the founder's name. She gets to focus on weaving, which is her true passion. And the daughters also founded a community learning center called Yo Onik, which means our heart in Mayan Tzotzil. The cooperative supports the Children's Learning Center, and it's really amazing because the teachers at the center are also from the community of Zinacantan, Chiapas, and can speak Tzotzil and help children with any language barriers they're in school, because Tzotzil is their primary language before Spanish. and all 10% of all of the profits made from the weaving cooperative go towards the school. All of these initiatives were developed to help the economy in Chiapas thrive. Chiapas is the poorest state in Mexico, I think, with like a 70% poverty rate, and it also has 47% of the population is indigenous. Chiapas is also known as like the last migrating state in Mexico because it's less common now for states more in the north to migrate. And this is happening because there aren't many economic opportunities for people within the region. Chiapas is also known for the Zapatista uprising in 1994, which happened as NAFTA was implemented. The Zapatistas, they thought of it as being a death to the subsistence farming lifestyle that had been dominating and is still a part of Chiapas. So essentially, globalization, we've been talking about empowering local communities, but I'm going to bring it back and talk about the local-global relationship. Globalization has essentially, I believe, impacted every single community. So globalization has contributed to the poverty in Chiapas. But I think we can also harness globalization to help communities, particularly within the textile market within Mexico. Mexico's a really popular tourist destination, especially right now. And also you might notice some designs around like popular stores that look rather Mexican. And so with this artist residency, what we want to do is make this an artist residency based on exchange. So artists might pay some funds to come in or pay funds to stay with a host family in Zinacantan while they're doing their residency. And they'll have the opportunity to take traditional weaving classes along with a curriculum that really emphasizes the cultural and historic significance of Mayan backstrap weaving within the community. And artists in residence will also be encouraged to give classes in exchange with their residency. So it's really about connecting across cultures and sharing stories. So these classes that the artist might give could be in a different artistic technique that isn't common in Zinacantan, or perhaps in different marketing or business knowledge that we in the West might have rather than people in Mexico. My role in this project, for me, cultural appropriation is really important, and it's extremely important to me that authorship is given to the people within the community who have been doing these designs for centuries. I think the most recent instance of cultural appropriation in Mexico was by a Venezuelan designer, and the government's finally started to acknowledging that. But so I'm planning to go down in January 2020 to work in collaboration with Mujer Sembrando La Vida's leaders, Yoli and Shuka, as a volunteer, to hopefully establish an infrastructure for the program so that it'll work from both an indigenous perspective and for Westerners coming in, and also to co-develop a curriculum around cultural appropriation and appreciation in order for the community to be credited if the artists choose to incorporate Mayan backstrap weaving into their practice. My time there, essentially I'll be a volunteer, and the money towards the grant will just go to my flight and paying Yoli and Shunka to stay at their house. How the grant will break down is most of the money will go towards salary and honoraria for different members of Mujer Sembrando La Vida, because everyone has to have, particularly Yoli and Shunka, the leaders, have to hold other jobs with other NGOs and can't focus as much of their time into their real passion of inspiring their own community. And we also hope that some of the money will go towards building a second floor in the Yo Onik Community Learning Center for the weavers to use as a workshop space. It will be used for meetings. It'll also house some special machines sewing machines for elaborate embroidery projects or making more particular products, which they're really excited about. And this can also be a space where workshops can happen. The building of the second floor will also create Yo Onik more as a community center. It already has multiple students running in and out, but I know they want to bring more people in. And because there's like a space for children and lessons, it's easy for women or other families to come in and work and meet and let their children play or read. And then some of the money will also go towards Natique administrative support, such as a graphic designer based in Mexico. Because another thing we want to do for expanding our markets into the US, since markets are often limited by the tourists who come in to Chiapas, and are extremely competitive among like multiple weaving cooperatives. So we want to like print labels to be able to sell products. Within the US, it's like a requirement for importing, and also labels that give intellectual ownership and credit to the artists and their cultural heritage around these textiles. So let's see. I also think this grant is especially important at this time to support economies abroad that have been so affected by US intervention and also have been so affected by globalization and US intervention in Mexico. Chiapas is also the gateway for the immigration problem. We also, and our long-term hope with this artist residency is that other communities in Guatemala can implement it, who we also work with, and that the weavers from MSV will be able to train people. Essentially, the global impacts have also created this crisis in Latin America that's given us a wave of asylum seekers and refugees, and also has fed into our crisis at the border. So I really believe in empowering and supporting communities within their own community will also help us with our global problems. I'm really excited to be here. I never thought I'd be back this quick, but thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me, and this is a project I'm really passionate about, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, all of you. As you look at your program, you'll notice that there is still more time, but we don't have time for questions because it's not fair for Josh not being here for questions and answers. You may have multiple questions that you can ask our candidates after they leave the room and after you have voted. So just the process this year is different from last year. Last year, we did have some finalists, but you may recall, if you check your emails and texts and so forth regularly, that we voted online for the winners. And then we asked the winners to come, and there were 3 winners last year. This year, it was Matt's suggestion, and everyone else just loved it, that we actually bring all of the finalists to make their presentations, their candidate speeches, bring a yard site if you want, and then we would vote right now, and the votes will be counted, and the finalists will be told, and the winners will come at dinner time this evening. It's in your program, so you can come and see if the people you cast a ballot for are the 2 winners who will receive. They'll all receive certificates, but the winners will also receive a certificate for a plaque. So are there any questions about the process? Not questions to the candidates. Yes, Roger.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the panels that were done for the preliminary screening?
We can do that after everyone understands how to vote. So the
Okay,
question was
yeah.
about the process to select the finalists, but first, does everyone understand how to vote? Okay, if you have a ballot, if you came in late and didn't hear all the 5, you don't have a ballot because everyone who's voting had to hear all 5. Vote 1 in the box for your first. Vote 2 in the box for your second. Do not vote for 3 do not put two number ones. If you only want to vote for one, that is fine.
Just one question, could we have like 3 to 5 minutes just quiet so that
Yes.
I can
Yes.
get
Yes.
it because it's really
Yes.
hard. And I'll be all-
Yes, good point, and then we'll resume.
And then you can leave and hand in your ballot. But before you start voting, if we can applaud 5 times as long as we did for any individual. Makes me so proud to say I'm an Antiochian.